Let's talk about David Blaine, one of the most iconic magicians in history. When I ask people to name 6 magicians, they can't do it. They can't do it. Some people might get to 5 or 6. Most people tap out at 3 or 4. But David Blaine is always on their list. Now, David Blaine's been famous for like 25 years. So some people, younger than me, they don't even really know why. Let's talk about all of the iconic things that made David Blaine famous. He's got an incredible history. He's reinvented himself so many times and pushed the boundaries of magic and himself in so many different directions over the years. And it's sort of a way he's always been able to stay relevant. The first time he came on the scene in any real way was in 1997 when he came out with a special called David Blaine Street Magic. And that aired on ABC. The reason this worked for him was because no one had ever done street magic. David Blaine invented street magic in the way we know now. Now you see magicians on YouTube and Instagram, TikTok, whatever, Facebook, doing all kinds of tricks on the street. Well, that style of bringing the magic outside and bringing a camera with you, that was David Blaine. He filmed some of that, sent it to the network ABC, and they loved it. And boom, next thing you know, he's got a special, and that launches him. 2 years later, he came out with another special in 1999 called Magic Man. And when you drop specials like that just 2 years apart, I mean, you're reaching millions of people, especially back then. There's no YouTube, there's no Facebook. If you wanted to see magic, unless you were gonna fly to Las Vegas and watch some magic show on the Strip, the only place you're gonna see magic were these 2 specials by David Blaine. Next thing he does is also in 1999, but he decides to go big with his stunt Buried Alive. Now, he buried himself alive in a really cool way. He did it in a clear coffin, and he was buried under 6 feet of water. Must have weighed a couple tons. Now, he did it underwater instead of under dirt so people could come by and look down and see that he was buried alive for 7 days. Now, this is incredible. When you think about being in a coffin, just really thinking about it, it makes me like claustrophobic in a way. And I'm a person that does straitjacket escapes, okay? Being in a coffin for 7 days is kind of a creepy feeling. It was estimated that 75,000 people came by to look in and see David Blaine actually buried alive. And this was a bit weird for people because now this wasn't really magic. This was just sort of pushing your mind and body to a limit. And they were confused by it. They're like, David Blaine, I thought he was a magician. What's he doing just being buried alive? Well, whether it was confusing to people or not, it worked. So the next year, in year 2000, he does Frozen in Time. Very similar idea, but he ups the stakes. He stands inside a huge block of ice for 72 hours. But he chose this because it is just as confined, but it's only 72 hours because it's freezing cold, and that's way harder on your body. But it's ice, so you can still see in and still see, holy crap, that's David Blaine. So here we go. In a span of 3 years, he's dropped 2 amazing specials and done 2 massive publicity stunts. Around that time is when I started falling in love with magic. He got a lot of people into magic, like a lot of people. So after that, David Blaine, well, he takes 2 years off. You know, the lazy bastard takes 2 whole years off, and he comes back with Vertigo, another non-magic, huge publicity stunt that tests your mind and body, where he stood on a pillar that was 100 feet high and only 22 inches wide. And he stood on that damn pillar in Bryant Park in New York for 35 hours. Now, every time he does one of these stunts, there's some controversy between was it magic or was it real? And that is a line that no one walks better than David Blaine, and one of the reasons why he's so famous. It really makes you question. It makes the controversy. It makes people being like, he wasn't really in the ice. Oh, you know, he had a thing come up at night and he could sit on it when he wasn't really standing on the pillar. He was like, they had a little thing up there and it slid up his pant leg and he could sit on it. All these theories, questioning. Was it him? Did they switch him out? Is it a real person? Is he, is he attached somehow? Super clever and super iconic, always on display. Then the very next year, he comes up with Above the Below. In 2003, he's hanging under a bridge in London above the River Thames in this huge plexiglass block, again, on display for everyone to see. And he hangs there in this box by himself for 44 days, where he does not eat. He lost like 25% of his body weight, and people were like taunting him with drones flying cheeseburgers around him and stuff. It was a crazy idea. Again, not magic. In fact, famously, Chris Rock had this to say about it.
I'm in a box, and I ain't gonna eat. I'm in a box, and I ain't gonna eat. That ain't no trick. That's called living in the projects.
Yeah, it's not magic, but what it does do is really make this guy more mysterious and weird. And for David Blaine, that was really the goal. Now, I'm not going to list every single time David Blaine did a stunt. It doesn't really make sense because he did have some flops. Like there's one where he was standing inside electricity or something. No one mentions that one. He did this like upside down hanging thing. Again, that one doesn't really seem to resonate with people. But in 2008, he went and set a Guinness World Record for holding your breath underwater. And he was underwater for like 17 minutes, and he did it on Oprah. So you can imagine all the eyes that got. I know that was like 14 years ago now, but if you haven't seen that one, go back and watch it. It is unbelievable to see someone hold their breath for 17 minutes. Now, even recently in his live touring stage show, he would hold his breath for 10 minutes on stage. Like, it's something that he still very much does. And then just when we think David Blaine is all stunts and no more magic, he comes back with some of the best magic on TV that's ever been done. He does a whole special called Real or Magic, and he starts performing for celebrities. People are always sharing a clip with me where he's in Harrison Ford's house, and Harrison Ford thinks of a card, and they cut open an orange, and the card's inside the orange. Non-magicians are always bringing that up to me. Oh, you see, Harrison Ford's freaking out, get out of my house. Now, any magician worth his salt can do that trick. It's not about can you do the trick sometimes. It's about can you present it the right way to the right person. You know, and David Blaine is a master at that. Now, this idea of real or magic is one of my favorite things about David Blaine. I mean, there's a famous clip of him taking a metal rod and pushing it through his bicep in front of Ricky Gervais. Non-magicians always asking me, Wes, is that real? Is he really pushing it through his bicep? Is he really doing it? Yeah. Then he goes on talk shows and he's spitting up frogs. Wes, is that real or is that magic? It's real. He's swallowing frogs. They're swimming around in there and he's spewing them up. We're not going to get into how, and you shouldn't be trying it, but yeah, David Blaine can produce frogs out of his throat. And then he does another one where he drinks a bunch of water, and then some kerosene, and then he blows fire, then hoses it out with all the water in his stomach. It looks impossible. It's like old school freak show, sideshow, circus craziness, and now he's just brought it to the here and now, and he's making us watch it, and we're absolutely enthralled. It's truly inspiring when you think about it. And then in 2020, he decides to do Ascension, hanging onto balloons, and all these balloons and just floating up in the air by holding onto balloons. I mean, that released on YouTube to millions and millions of people. I don't think it maybe had the impact that he'd hoped it would, but what an insanely cool visual. But I hope you just caught what I said about millions of people watching him in 2020 and millions of people watching him in 1997. Just that right there, that's a 23-year career where when you go up to somebody on the street and you say, name me a magician, he is one of two that they're going to say immediately. Now, for nearly 25 years straight, David Blaine is one of two answers that are going to come out of their mouth. Now, I don't know many other people that can boast a 25-year career like that. And I mean, from what I can tell, he's far from finished. But I just really want to take a moment and make this video kind of as a David Blaine appreciation video for all he's done for magic and inspired so many millions of people around the world, myself included, but also for any of the younger viewers that might not really understand why. Maybe you're 14 right now and you only saw him holding on to balloons and you're like, oh, I don't really get it. Go back, there's plenty of footage, watch the older stuff. There's a reason this guy is who he is. And honestly, I'm a fan. I can't wait to see what he comes up with next.
Oh, hello. Hopefully by now you've had a chance to see our second playing cards, with their beautiful design and amazing quality, inspired by a proper legend. Now it is true that some people, like my friend Alex, choose to use these cards for cardistry and magic. But what about the many other uses, like a paperweight, a coaster, a bookmark, a bar bet, a drinking game, or good old-fashioned family time? Here at Second, we champion all uses of the playing card. And just remember, you don't have to be first to be second to none.